Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babel podcast. As always, I am Julian Musha. I'm joined by Jeremy Cozier.
Hello.
And a Happy New Year to all our TOB fans out there, to our listeners out there. We are rolled over to 2024, and let's just hope that this year's better than the last, because last year sucked. We can all agree. And we can move on.
So it's just a vicious cycle.
I, I think we have to maintain hope, right? If you assume it's going to be as bad as last year, that's like the
But isn't the
glass
thought
half empty.
process you just, expressed? Didn't that just happen like a couple years, 3 years in a row?
Yeah, this is like the fourth one we're trying for. Fifth one. Basically,
Yeah. Can
since
we just go back to
2019.
2018? Like,
Yeah, 100%. The Marvel hype is at its highest it's ever been, right?
16, 17, 18. Jeez
Oh,
Louise.
those are the listen. Everyone knows that the good old days have come and gone. There's no more good old days to come.
Yeah.
It just gets worse, I guess, from here. Sorry to the
Well, new
millennials out
new
there.
generations are living their own whatever version
But you
of that.
think?
The
I
good
don't
old days.
know,
Well,
man. It's
they
tough
live.
out there.
I mean, it said their own, right?
I
Their own.
guess they all have to forge it through like the trials and tribulations of a
Yeah.
crazy housing market and everything costs $1 million
Yeah.
and yeah, it's not fun. But there is fun
But
stuff to
everything's
talk
just
about.
super convenient for them.
Yeah, you don't have to like leave your house for anything.
Yeah, they don't got to go to Blockbuster.
I
Nice
actually
50.
would. It's funny you mentioned that. I was just talking about this the other day because I live on a street that actually used to have a Blockbuster on it. I realized this later, like recently, because I don't typically go that far down the street. But
Like towards
towards
Portage, or
Portage, yeah, exactly, right on the corner.
I thought you'd venture over there to your old convenience store Jeffrey's and get a
Well,
bag
no,
of chips.
that there's actually a convenience store the other direction, so
Mm.
it's easier. But long story short, I actually do miss it going to, and I know this is like rote or whatever. Everyone says that, and it's like, well, the convenience of the Netflix experience is just that much better. That there's a reason that Blockbuster went out of business, but I don't know. There's something to be said about okay, well, I'm not going to go to the movie theater, but I am going to go out and get a movie that kind of like changes your dynamic, how you think about it. You paid money, you feel like you put money into that movie specifically, right? So it kind of changes your perception a little bit. I don't know. What do you? Is that? Am I just too
I think
nostalgic?
it's a yeah. I think it's mostly nostalgic, because it just puts you right back in that time and space, which essentially the internet didn't exist, or like, you know what I mean, like.
Yeah, but sometimes you just want to rent a movie, and it's like you have to like open your laptop or your phone and Google. Yes, you're not opening your laptop. Let's be honest.
Well,
You're
now you
opening your
just have
iPhone.
so much choice with that convenience, which is that's what we trade it for. So now you can just hunker down and basically get lost in whatever, and it's come to a point where it's almost too much,
It is too
and
much.
then there's anxiety based off of that, of choosing the wrong thing, or just not enough attention paid to it, especially since we have cellular phone like devices now, mini computers in front of us. Soon as our
Supercomputers in our
attention
pocket. Yeah,
span is gone, you're leaving the relationship of the movie.
I
And
just think
then
it's too
movies made now
easy.
are made in that like cheap kind of way. I
It's
don't
too
know.
transaction, like too transitive. Like it just it comes and goes. You put a movie on, you're on your phone the whole time, and it's the moment all the moments blend together, and I
Yeah.
feel like there was a time where the moments were more separated, right?
Hmm.
So you would sit down and watch a movie and that was it. There was no
Yeah.
on to the next one immediately or go watch Friends for the 4,000th time. I think that's another thing, which is like being able to rewatch stuff over and over again
Yeah.
has also created this world where new stuff doesn't get as much attention, for good
Yeah.
or
It's
for
just
bad.
totally different experience. Like that's why the theater is always king. That's why it'll always exist, is because uh, the key component is that it is shutting off every other option and choice you have essentially, and you are locked into a relationship that you're giving
It's
a
so good.
chance, and then eventually it can consume you based off what someone is trying to tell you. And if you're willing to listen and engage with that, then you're off to the races. And then
Right, the
you can kind
artist.
of just determine through there, like, what is the message? What are they telling you? How does it make you feel? And then from there, determine on whether or not you think this is of some sort of value for just yourself or
Right,
many.
that's what it's all about. That
Yeah.
feeling, going to the movies to feel something, right? Excitement, sadness, what's that line from the AMC stuff, which is like somehow sadness feels good in a place like this or whatever.
Right.
That's that is a true statement. I feel like that. You know,
Yeah,
we
but
can make fun
also
of it.
when labeling those like stats there, it's not necessarily need to be pumped up in that regard to define all those, emotions or whatever. Like
Yeah,
you like with a little bit with the Iron Claw, like to me it was just like my jaw was just basically dropped like the majority of the time, just kind of accepting like everything that's going on. Like
not a
there, but
movie you
there,
would normally see in the movie theater, right? I was that would that be fair to
uh,
say?
for me, no. Like I wanted to see it in the theater just based
Mm.
off of a lot of the promotion. I thought the promotion was handled really well, just kind of showcasing all those actors traveling together, and then just talking about their camaraderie and just the relationship on set and like what it meant to them. Talking about the real story behind the movie.
Yeah,
It
that's
just it
crazy to
just
me.
felt like it should be watched in a theater setting where I just basically said like, everything else is cut off, you're locked in.
Well, it's such a so let me frame this up a little bit. So, okay, um, we do a monthly film club. Normally, those are old movies. We were really hitting the '90s movies really hard over the last year, um, and Jeremy had the brilliant idea of doing a new movie, which which has never really occurred to me. So we decided we're going to do the Iron Claw for this month's film club for January. We both have seen it in the theater, um, and we are going to give it a full review as a part of the film club, so stay tuned for that. But we'll frame it up a little bit here. Um, Largely speaking, I think it is great. It is a movie that I wouldn't normally see in a movie theater, but I think it's really important that I did because the movie is so upsetting that it would be really easy to disengage from it when it really wants you to like linger in feelings of sadness and grief and like just like the unbelievable like shock of these moments. And you're like, if you were given the opportunity to just like, okay, you know what, I need to like separate myself, give me some some space between myself and this movie. Just easy to pick up your phone, scroll something for a second, and allow yourself to disengage, right? Um, Whereas you're watching in a movie theater, you can't do that, and or it's much harder to do that unless some people fall asleep or some and stuff like that. But I don't think that's for the same reason. So um, I 100% agree with you. Which is why the movie theater is always king. Speaking of which, by the way, Jeremy, have you been to the new Saint Patel theater,
I mean, like
the
like the
renovated
one I
one?
went into was uh like new seats or whatever.
Yeah, but also new design, right? They've moved the front row. It's like
Oh,
imagine
like within
normal
the
stadium
theater.
seating.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But instead of the front section being super close to the screen, they've made that like a walkable section. There is a row of seats at that level, but then you walk up a set of seats, a set of stairs, like up a I don't know, a 5 foot wall basically, and then you start a new row of seats from there, and they're all the
Yeah, it's a whole
recliners.
different kind of setup to
Yeah,
facilitate that amount of seats, which I is obviously got to be less than before.
yeah, it is 100% less, but
Yeah.
I think the reality is they weren't filling those theaters.
Yeah, no, it's a
So
proper
yeah,
evolution of those theaters.
yeah.
Those theaters always felt smaller when you went into them anyways, so I think it's kind of a perfect fit.
Well, and when you have fewer seats, it somehow makes the screen feel a little bit more intimate, right? Like it's a big screen, it's not as big as an IMAX or whatever, but it doesn't feel like you're into this like cheap feeling, right? It is better.
That
And they
too,
added a new AVX which does tout Dolby Atmos. Um and when I went to see Aquaman in the Last Kingdom, there was a whole and this is something I've been championing I think for a little bit, which there was a whole pre-roll section that was just about the technology that the theater had, so Dolby Atmos and like the digital laser projection and like the the high dynamic range coloring and all that stuff. I think people should be more aware or be made
yeah.
more aware of the technology that they're of the
No,
movies that they're
they just want that little button where it goes, and then yeah, like we need a sound bite of like whatever that sound is.
that's like the THX sound I think or something like that. But it's like it's too long. It takes too long to play that sound. But maybe every time we start getting into the nitty gritty of like the technology of movie theaters, we should just play that and be like, "Oh, take that as a sign to get out of here." Move on to the next thing. But I don't know. My feeling is people got tired of the theater because for a bunch of reasons it was too expensive. They felt like they could watch stuff at home. But if they felt like that the experience of watching it at the theater was that much better, digital projection, all these things, um, you know, object-based sound, which Dolby Atmos is, and stuff like that, they might not know or be able to tell necessarily the difference, not unless it was side by side. But knowing that it's there is kind of like, oh yeah, I saw it in laser projection, or I saw it in Dolby Atmos. You know what I mean? Like that is something that I feel like could help theaters promote the theater going experience more, which is, as we know, an experience that is on its it's not that healthy right now.
Yeah, but like if we talk about the Iron Claw, it's like I knew it was going to be in one of the smaller theaters,
Yeah.
and I like it wasn't one of those things where I needed like laser clarity,
No,
this, and that.
Aquaman was though.
Yeah, but if I went to see Aquaman and I want to go to the theater, I'm going to make sure it's in AVX or IMAX.
Right, but the thing is,
But it's also the price.
Right,
Also
I
the
also
price,
didn't
right?
know what AVX was for a long time. Right,
Yeah.
it's like it's just three letters, audio visual experience or something. Maybe I don't know, but it didn't explain what the technology was. At least I know what a IMAX is, even if it's not a true IMAX. I know what that they're trying to achieve there, right? So, and I guess by the way, Polo Park is due for its own renovation. I think at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway,
I'm just picturing the manager we saw hobbling around.
Every time I think about it, I think about the team of managers I saw in the Toronto airport.
Oh right, yeah. Where you could have intervened and
I tried.
Started a chain reaction of.
I tried.
I
said,
path.
"Excuse me, can I ask you a question? You guys all look like you work for Cineplex. Excuse me, can I ask you a question?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sure." Why the hell do you guys keep the lights on for the previews? Which, by the way,
it sucked versus this one because the light was shining pretty badly on like the bottom left corner of the screen. But
drives me nuts. It's a shame, a travesty. I don't know. Tragic shamockery.
But also like the price, right? Like people aren't gonna like some people. It's what they can afford, and like that $13 price range. Like where I saw Iron Claw with those reclining seats, like hey, like that's gonna get a lot of people probably, and it was pretty full. And that movie came out in December, I think. So
yeah, I was a decent
many
crew
weeks after.
at the my screening as well, which I think is a good sign. I think, by the way, speaking of Iron Claw, A24 announced late last year that they were going to start leaning into like bigger productions and kind of take a stab at kind of the large, like the blockbuster market.
Wasn't The Rock doing like a similar thing here with like a UFC MMA fighter portrayal biopic?
Yeah, The Rock recently announced that he was going to try to refine his acting choices. And
yeah, well, he teased it a while ago, but it's been like officially announced, like director, and like he's doing it. He's playing a real life MMA fighter, kind of before UFC was super popular.
And again, we can all agree that The Rock. I just saw there was actually, speaking of funny, you mentioned that because I watched on the Iron Claw IMDb page. It's playing a trailer for Baywatch, which also featured Zac Efron, but also featured The Rock, and widely regarded as one of The Rock's worst movies.
Well, yeah, that's when everyone was shitting on him, man, including yourself, I think.
Man, including you. The guy wasn't putting in good performances. What do you want me to say?
Yeah. And it culminated with us because of Black Adam. It was just such a major disappointment with his long selling pitch.
Oh my
God! Hyped us up a little bit, but then it just got too stagnant, and then just all the rotating doors at Warner Brothers, and it just was a recipe for disaster. And they didn't pull the plug like they did with Batgirl.
I mentioned this on the small screen Star Wars podcast I did with Rachel over the weekend, but last year I got a Black Adam Hallmark Christmas tree ornament from from Kara's mom, and she always gets these random Hallmark ornaments, and I never asked for this. Like I didn't want that.
Ornaments.
Well, I'm as I mentioned on that other show, which you should listen to, Small Screen Star Wars. It's on this feed. If you're listening to this, you should be able to find it. Always great stuff talking about Star Wars stuff. But we were talking about our Christmas Star Wars themed Christmas, and I just think that my Christmas tree is always like I try to keep it relatively refined. I don't just throw any willy nilly shit on there, and I'm certainly not putting a Black Adam Black Adam ornament on my Christmas tree. So there's a whole bunch of these that she'd given us over the years that we sold on Marketplace. But the only one that didn't sell was the Black Adam one. So take that for what it's worth. It's a sign, maybe. I don't know. But that is what it is. Okay, let's move into the meat of this. There's a few things I want to cover today. By the way, I should mention this. We're recording this. It's Monday night, 15th of January. The Emmys are happening as we speak, which I didn't realize until we just about to sit down to record. So we'll cover the winners at a later date. We'll also talk about the Golden Globe winners in this episode if we have the time. Okay, so look for a deeper dive into the Iron Claw on our film club. That's exclusive to our Patreon subscribers. You can support the show by heading over to patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. That's BABBLE. And for as little as $5 a month, you'll get access to that. And it's a fun extra bonus content for you. And there's a Discord channel for you to come and join the conversation. If you can't support us there, next best thing, follow us on Twitter at TowerBabblecast, Facebook.com/TowerBabblecast. Send us any questions, comments, concerns you might have to TowerOfBabblePodcast@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to address those or read those on air. Okay. So, couple things I didn't get a chance to ask you about last time we recorded, Jeremy. One of the things I wanted to ask you about was the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes trailer. Have you seen this?
I did.
Are you... So there's obviously a trilogy. I think we both agree that those were pretty good movies. The last two, especially the first one, this is, further into the future of that world, right? The apes have more of a community. They're much more established as a society. Is this still grabbing you? Is this still interesting to you at this stage? No, the fourth one?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a stellar trailer in my opinion. I was
It's
pretty
beautiful. Yeah.
blown away by it. Like just the beginning,
What
just
a
the
beautiful
seeing
day.
him riding, a moose or whatever, and then the eagle, like lands
Landing on
on
his
him or
arm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Just the control, and then you see the control over humans, and like just the way it was all shown just looks so action packed and just cohesive and just powerful. So I don't know, I'm
So
definitely
you're in.
excited.
Okay, yeah, same. I
Yeah.
just wanted to check. Same. This looks really cool. I kind of thought they were gonna stop after the third one. I was like, I don't know if they need to truly tell any more of these stories. We kind of saw the story of Caesar, right, and that kind of culminates at the end of the third one.
This one's just
And
like generations later too, or something like
yeah, it's
that.
just years and years and years later. And to be like, this is, I feel like we're getting closer to what the original Planet of the Apes concepts were. It's much closer, like a fully established society of apes that have like, you know, basically people have devolved, and we've seen a little bit of that now in this one. And we're almost at that point, but I never watched those old ones.
Really,
And so this is maybe my first opportunity to kind of get into the meat of what those stories are about.
you haven't seen the Mark Wahlberg one?
I probably have actually, but I don't really remember it. I thought it was what's his name from Friends was in that one, wasn't it?
No, he was in a
Lost in
reboot of
Spades.
Lost in
Yeah.
Space.
Okay, my bad.
Joey.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, Marky Mark was in a
Yeah, it was
film.
just like a
Okay.
reboot of Planet of the Apes, just kind of like a retelling of that story, just modernized a bit. Instead of like he was like an astronaut instead of a fighter pilot or whatever.
Mm.
What's his name? Is it Charleston Heston?
Yeah, I think you're right. But I mean, the thing is, like, the greatest moment of those movies is the twist at the end, right? And that will never be. You can never achieve that again. So it's like,
Well, they did it with the Mark one.
yeah, but
Spoilers. Do you want to know what it is?
Spoilers. Spoilers. If anyone was seeing Planet of the Apes for the first time, that
Oh, we're allowed to.
there's
Okay,
yeah, like
so
yeah, come on.
Mark just like shows up, like he fixes his ship or something, and he flies away or whatever. And then when he lands, it looks like it's fucking like Washington D.C. or something. And then he goes to like see he's like by the like monuments, and he looks up and it's like that big chair where Abraham Lincoln is sitting
Yeah,
in. But then
yeah.
when they go to the face, it's an ape. And then all these cop cars start driving up, all the sirens, and then when they get out, they're all apes in cop uniforms. It's actually pretty sick
Okay.
because the end of the very
Yeah.
first one obviously
Is
was the revelation that like
it was Earth.
yeah, like
Yeah.
he's time traveled or something, or
Yes. And then he sees the Statue of Liberty.
yes, so he
Yeah.
see it's New York, and yeah, like it's
Yeah.
all it was before and the apes took over.
Yeah. So I just feel like you can't do that twist anymore, obviously.
Yeah,
So
because the
you have
second time was kind of ridiculous, but like looking back, it's kind of sick like now. But you can't do it again.
you can't do it again.
Hey, we need to
Well,
just
the fact that
we
they
need to just
tried.
live in fear that these superior beings, uh, are
Well,
just in control
yeah,
of us.
because if you think about it, apes are, well, not all of them, but a lot
Well,
of them are stronger
yeah, the
than us.
strength, dexterity, just the
Right.
agility, the ability, the
Speed,
muscle
exactly.
density.
Uh-huh. Right. But if they were
I think like
smarter
Cat
than us,
Williams
then
has
we'd be
a whole
screwed.
joke about how like black people could just basically take over too if they all just like
They all just work together.
yeah.
That's funny. Um, the off topic, but funny. Okay, so just quickly mention this then. Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman. I don't know if you remember this as a movie from a couple years ago. There's a series coming to Netflix, same title. I think it's set in like it's a sequel to the movie. Um, it's the premise of
Guy
the original
Ritchie
movie.
does TV.
Yeah, well, that's the premise of this. But it looks really good. If you watch the trailer, it looks like a movie. Like it has the production
Yeah.
value of a Guy Ritchie film.
I skimmed
And
through it quick. Nothing was really pulling me, but
I listen. It's like
I skimmed through a trailer.
It's Guy Ritchie doing Guy Ritchie stuff.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it's like
actually on my phone though, like moving the cursor up a couple seconds and moving it again 10 seconds.
you're like,
Like like
it's a
what is
bunch
this
of guys in
about?
suits.
Like
Giancarlo
I'm saying like
Esposito's in there.
that process obviously doesn't make any sense, but it's good enough for me to be like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's your that's
I
your
don't need
take.
to like invest in this movie in the
I
future now.
swiped up and down, and I didn't see a scene that I liked, so I'm not gonna watch it. Anyway, I am gonna give it a shot. There's also a new movie coming from Guy Ritchie, and I don't know. I'm just like I just love his stuff. It's like a little bit like
Played out.
we all know what it is now, right? It's not really anything new under the sun, but it's fun to just dive into like British gangster stuff every once in a while. I don't see the
Yeah,
problem.
and if he's known for it and he can come back and like remind people why he's he's the
He's the
goat
goat.
for it,
Yeah,
but that's a high bar
it's
too.
not easy, but again, good cast. So listen, my favorite Guy Ritchie movie is Rock and Rolla. So take that for
Interesting.
what you will. I love that movie. I think it's so fun. Absolutely, like just great, an unbelievable cast. Like so good. Um, and they wanted to make another one. They even teased it says the Rock and Rollas will return at the end of it. There's no way it'll ever happen. Like there's no way they could afford to pay all the actors that they got to do another movie. They're just all too big now. So anyway, a shame. Okay, so moving on. John Williams, who recently announced that he was retiring, has decided to cancel his retirement plans.
What song comes to mind first for you? Mine was the Harry Potter one just now.
I don't know, Jurassic Park maybe,
Yeah.
or Star Wars. Probably more realistically, it's Star Wars than Jurassic Park. But I have been watching Harry Potter, and that doesn't hurt. He only scores the first one, and then after that, it's taken over by other people.
You
But
haven't
that first,
finished Harry
no,
Potter?
we have the two part 7.
Oh, see the last movie,
We
part
have the
one,
last
part
two
two,
movies to do. Yeah,
the Deathly Hallows. I'm not mistaken.
part 1 and part 2. Correct. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Yes. I've been getting a different appreciation for what people consider to be the better ones, and I don't fully agree because people are saying that like the 6th one is like really bad, and
Well, I think the last like four or something were all the same guy.
they are better than the 5th one. I'll just say that the like it or sorry the
The
fourth one.
fourth.
The fourth
Yeah,
one. The
the
fourth
well the
one is so
Goblet.
bad
I
that
think the
yeah.
Goblet was they brought like an older British director in the mix. which was kind of a bold choice, but kind of cool because it was all everyone was British basically, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Whereas the first two is Christopher Columbus, just a living legend who did Home Alone one and
Yes.
two as
He
well.
absolutely
Mrs.
captured the
Oh,
magic
and
of
Mrs.
children. Yeah.
Doubtfire, I believe he directed.
Yeah. It's
Uh, Quite a he's not. I don't think I feel like he's not very famous, even though those movies are just
like
massive.
it's like people don't think like they think Home Alone, but they don't first thing you don't think of is Christopher Columbus,
Yeah, it
right?
just sounds like a made up name too
Well,
for
it is the
a
name of an
living direct.
explorer.
Yeah, like a current living director.
He's,
That's why I like to
he's like
living legend specifically with him because
right because
and he
he's not very
established Harry Potter with those first two.
but he
The
didn't
whole
discover
vibe.
the new world, so it's kind of like a low bar, you know.
Right.
Yeah, he did Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. He did Harry Potter, Home Alone 2, Pixels. He did Pixels. Ooh.
Interesting. I
Okay.
haven't seen that.
Yeah, neither have I, but I didn't remember hearing anything good about it. Christmas Chronicles, Bicentennial Man, Christmas Chronicles 2, and Gremlins.
Wait, is Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And Mrs. Doubtfire not in there, or is that
Yes, and
someone
Mrs.
else?
Doubtfire is
Oh
in
yeah,
there as well. Sorry, you said that
pretty
already too.
impressive. Pretty
Yeah, I mean,
impressive, I think.
it's there's some highs and some lows, you
Yeah.
know, but that's okay. You can have some highs and lows.
But think where you are right now in Harry Potter and what those first two were.
So much
It's
better.
almost
That's all
mind
I'm
blowing. If
saying.
you like for you right now, pop in that first one. It's like they were literal kids.
Well, here's the thing.
First off, the
I think they
actors.
lose the plot a little bit about like what is important in the. It's like they lose the like the sense of wonder pretty early on, like after the third one, basically, and it's
Yeah,
never
but
really
it's
recaptured.
pretty fun to just live in
Oh,
the
100%,
world.
100%.
You know
I
what I mean?
really,
And
I
really see it fleshed out
it's
instead of those wandering eyes, like you're astonished because
yeah the Spielberg
we're in the
face.
same boots as Harry, jumping into that
Right,
world.
right. And so that is nice because obviously having an established world to get into is fun. This is part of the reason, by the way, that I recently purchased the Harry Potter video game, the uh, Wizarding, whatever
Hogwarts
it's called,
Legacy,
Hogwarts Legacy. Thank you.
22 million copies sold,
Unbelievable.
massive
I got it
success.
for Kara, but I'm probably gonna play it too. But the idea is like you just jump into this Wizarding world that's already fully established, and you don't have
Yeah,
to like rediscover these
grab the
things.
Sorting Hat, choose
Right.
your house.
She's a Ravenclaw, apparently. That's
Nice.
she, and she's like, you can technically choose whichever
I
house
would
you
have
want,
guessed Hufflepuff,
but I feel like that's like the go-to like, and this
just
isn't
to make fun of somebody.
yeah, it's like you're making fun of them, but at the same time,
Yeah,
it's like
it's cute
why
or
is that an
something.
insult? You know,
Yeah.
it's just because it sounds funny, I guess.
It just means you're just not in the race. Like sorry, like
you're you're just not cool. You're just not a part of the cool crowd.
but like Ravenclaw, like that's
Cool
like
name, cool name.
we just
Yeah,
I think I'd have to choose that because that's I think it's on the same wavelength as Gryffindor, but just has a bit of an edge to it.
100%. The other
Yeah.
thing is, I think there's no shame in being a Slytherin because it's kind of fun to be the
Oh,
bad guy
it's
sometimes.
very cool.
Yeah. Um.
And then within this game, you get to experience all the secret tunnels within
exactly.
every house's dorm. Like you get
She was
your
joking. She
own
was like,
dorm to live in.
she was just like, well, first because we saw the Ravenclaw like dorm room or whatever. I was like, I don't think we ever saw this in the movie, and I was like, it's super
Yeah.
cool with all these spiral staircases and stuff. And then Kara was like, this game is just like 90% staircases. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
they're
kind of
just
cool.
always moving just to manipulate the space
Yeah,
to fit it.
it's fun.
Did you guys read either of you read the books?
Uh, no,
No.
because I'm too lazy. Who has the
Yeah.
time to read, Jeremy? Who has the time? I don't know. I just don't. I can't do it.
I
Anyway,
think
back.
I probably got it for Christmas or something the first one, and I just did it.
I got my sister one of the books for Christmas, because she has the whole collection, but she lost one of the books. So I'm still
Yeah.
buying these books.
I have
since
them all except for the
2024.
last two, I believe, of the
It's
original
unfortunate J.K.
prints.
Rowling is a crazy person.
Yeah,
That's
you
yeah.
just don't talk about her, I guess. Or,
Yeah, exactly. It's just so
but I
crazy.
just did. I recently purchased the first three books again that are these kind of these new editions that are bigger books. Like feels like it's almost like leather on the outside. It
Tome.
pretty much is. Has like the shiny like emblems and like designs on it. Has like the
Classic.
year one, year two, year three,
That's
all
cool.
one color each one. Cool new artwork on the front that's like painted
Are
within.
you gonna read these books, or you just want to have them?
Well, I want the first three. I already have. I mean, I wanted these ones because they include some artwork every now and then like kind of like these pop up artsy type things, like even just like little dials that spin or just cool like things that are like
A
unique to the
dial
world
that
that you can
spins.
see.
You can't go
Like there's
wrong with
just
anything
little
that
paper.
spins.
There's paper crafts that like have spinning things or just
That's
different
cool.
art things, fold out, pop up things. Not a lot. It's like every now and then it pops up where there's some art that
Did I
it
tell
like
you that I
looks cool.
saw the Harry Potter play in Melbourne when I was in Australia? Did I tell you about this?
I don't think so, but that apparently it sucked or whatever. Didn't really make any
It's
waves.
pretty cool, to be honest. To like
Hmm.
the way that they craft the stage and like do the effects and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it's
I just meant like we
yeah.
haven't really heard much of it or any sort of like
Well, it's only a
companion
matter of
to it.
time, I think, until someone tries to make it into a movie. I mean, it's the thing is though, it's not a very good story. That's the problem. It's like a very generic time travel story, and it opens up the whole problem of the time turner as a concept in Harry Potter. There's a whole bunch of these kind of like objects and things and powers that exist in Harry Potter that it's like if you examine it with even like the slightest scrutiny, you're like, wait a minute, like why? How is this? Why is it like that? Why wouldn't they just do this? There's a lot of that in Harry Potter, and like mostly I'm fine with ignoring it because it's more fun to just have fun with magic than try to like pick apart plot holes. But
Yeah, but
the
also the
more
books are just way better as you go on too in comparison to the movies.
well, yeah, I'm because there's just more room to explore bigger concepts, which is why I'm sure the show, that HBO series that they said that they'll make, but who knows if it ever happens,
Yeah.
will give
We're
it
gonna do
yeah
all the books, every single page,
yeah
TV format,
every
like.
page and all
But
of her
it's like,
thoughts.
but
Yeah,
it's the same as the movies or something like that. Because I guess
well, it's
it's
retelling the
like
same
Lord of the
story.
Rings, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like untouchable.
Oh, but Jeremy,
You know what
don't
I
even
mean?
start with me. I've just started. I've just
Oof,
watched the
ooh.
first. I watched Fellowship Extended Edition. By the way,
Oh
it's
my
so crazy
goodness.
that when you get the 4K edition, you're back to 2 discs. You have to watch it on 2 discs
Oh
again.
yeah. Well, they're extended. They're the extended edition
It's so
still.
wild. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like it's good because you can actually watch half of an extended edition. It's like a whole movie. So you watch half of that, you can take a break and then
Yeah.
come back for the other half. So I've now watched
Yeah.
all of Fellowship and the first half
Did you just
of the
leave
extended edition an hour back.
the menu like kind of like linger to just watch the whole like
100%.
thing? Yeah.
I used that to
Holy cow.
calibrate my sound system because there was like all good
So
things.
when I saw that, like I don't know what the name, the like we don't have Dan anymore to really just like
Right.
nail
The
these
words.
locations
Yeah.
and like names for things. But there's like the like a stone kind of like building or like uh kind of castle or whatever
The
kind of
one in the
meeting ground.
in the
Like
one in the plains like that's surrounded by like open plain. Is that the one I'm
yeah,
thinking of?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like so clearly through this new 4K restoration, like
It's so
a
gorgeous.
somewhat of well, somewhat of a it's like you can just tell it's like a layer of CG like
Oh, well, yeah, the
clearly
CG
over
stuff
top of the
has
film.
always been very obvious to me in Lord of the Rings, for better or for
Uh
worse.
yeah, but
Mostly.
it's so just cohesive and consistent and just matches everything.
Yeah,
All
like
I'm
even
saying is that the clarity of this, you can just tell it's like these kind of faux things
well, you can see where things are
floating.
real and where things aren't as
Yeah.
much, and it does take you out a little bit. I think the biggest thing for me is that the you obviously you have New Zealand and they have these big,
Mm.
massive shots of these
Oh my
vistas of
God.
it
The
running,
Vista shots, tracking shots
unbelievable,
are
right?
everything to me.
Yeah, and so it's super cool to see like Middle Earth brought to life in that way. Um, but when you get to these like smaller locations like Rivendell or Hobbiton, I feel like it just feels like okay, now they're on a set. They've transitioned from a
Sure.
real world into a fake world. That's kind of how it feels.
Yeah,
It just don't feel
I
this
think
little disjointed.
those lines are less blurred there, but the thing with Lord of the Rings, and maybe at this point we've obviously seen them so much, like we were just kind of
It's been so long for
brought
me
up with
actually
these things. You know what I mean?
since I
Like,
last saw them. Yeah, well, they were the
well,
best,
me at least.
biggest movies in the like right when like movies became a thing that I really cared
Yeah.
about in the early 2000s, right?
This was like
And
cinema at its peak, and it was not stopping. It was just
no,
like
I know.
it was just kept
We were also
going, and they
getting
were
the
just
Star
still
Wars
filming.
prequels at that time, and it was
Right.
like, What a world!
Yeah, it was kind
Take
of
me
like the
back to
battle
that time.
between Lord of the Rings and Star Wars
Yeah,
instead
hundred
of like a
percent.
Star Wars Star Trek thing.
It was so cool. Anyway, I still do think that the first half of Two Towers is pretty boring, unfortunately, especially the extended
I
edition.
don't know. I've
But
come around with Two Towers. I think it's creeping up there for the top spot. I was
it
very hard on it before,
it's
but
got to be Fellowship. It's got to be. The first half of that movie
yeah,
is pure vibes. It's so
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
enjoyable.
It's just
Yeah,
so well established, establishing every single thing to come.
right.
Um,
But from the
oh,
prologue,
and the one thing
the
that dates it, like these things are these movies are timeless. Don't get me
yes,
wrong,
yes,
but the one thing dating these are the frame rate drops for like some whatever like slow mo effect that they're going
yes.
for, and it is
They weren't
just
using a high speed camera, so when
it
they go
is
into slow
just
mo, yes. Well,
horrendous.
you're used to like the slow mo ramping that Zack Snyder does, which is like
Yeah,
super high speed
it's
camera,
just
so you
beautiful.
can do much more intricate. I mean, this you see this sometimes in movies and TV when they're trying to like extend a shot by like a couple seconds,
Yeah.
or they
But this
slow
one
it
they
down.
mask it mostly when like the urukai are like running or whatever, and they want to be like
Bump
they like
bump
get these
bump.
close ups of like kind of like shaky cam almost, but it's mixed with slow mo.
Ba-dum, bum bum bum. I so I that
Man,
music is so
oh
sick.
my goodness, Gollum in Two Towers is sensational.
The performance is really really good.
When he replies with when it's my precious, it just
It's unbelievable.
it makes me just evaporate.
The so first of all, I still think those movies are really good, especially the end of. First of all, Kara's watching it for the first time, which she's doing reluctantly, which is I'm feeling like a little insulted by. It's like, what do you mean you? What are you gonna
Yeah,
have to
it's tough.
convince
Lord of the
you?
Rings has a
Yeah,
veil over of it, over top of it, because it is this the very first kind of old fashioned
it's
fantasy. It's
fantasy
the
capital
blueprint.
F. It's capital
Yeah,
F
this is
fantasy. Yeah,
where do you think like elves, all the mixture of all these
100%.
beings, and it just
And
it started here, and it just made sense,
it's
like it
cohesive.
happened,
It's
like
the world is built out
it's
in a
realized.
cohesive way and it's fully realized exactly. And people try to cheat that today in when they try to create their worlds, but you can't really cheat it. You have to do the work. Tolkien did. So the thing that it's making this rewatch
But he
more
did by
enjoyable for me.
borrowing so many elements from
Well, I mean,
kind of right, like
he
fine
was
tuning them.
constantly revising his thought, which I think is kind of makes it interesting. Like original concept might have been X, but then he's like over time he's like, well, really, I actually now that I think about it more, it's more like Y or whatever,
Mm.
right? Which creates this kind of more of a mythological feel to these things, where it feels more like,
Oof.
well, the 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 story really did pass down over time, and maybe
Yeah.
the true tale, quote unquote, is still out there. That's how it feels real, right? So I've been watching videos on YouTube about Lord of the Rings lore because I find the people who read them have like really soothing voices, and it's really good way to like wind down at the end of the day is put on a Lord of the Rings like uh, lore video. Like one I watched yesterday, but I fell asleep watching it was the why is it called which two towers are they referring to in the two towers,
Mm.
and the kind of the takeaway I guess is that it's kind of up to you which two towers that there's kind of different answers, and Tolkien revised his kind of thinking about it over time, about which he thought it was. If it was Dol Guldur and the oh man, I've had
Testing your
words.
knowledge.
I had all these words in my head yesterday, and now I can't remember them all.
Testing your
Um,
research.
is that the hobbits go west. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard. Isengard. As I needed to use that. So Isengard and Dol Guldur, or the Tower of man, where's the Tower of the
The
Eye?
Riders of Rohan.
Just start just throwing words in there. Yeah, Helm's Deep. Yeah, no
Carl
shit.
Urban just shows up. That's the third movie, right?
Yes, no, the
Yeah.
second movie. He shows up in the middle of the second
Yeah,
movie.
the
By the way,
second
that's
movie's
the
the
other
best,
thing.
dude. Come on.
It's
Come
not the
on.
best. The first
It's
one's
the
the best.
best.
The first one's the
Yeah,
best
no,
because
no, I agree. I just love the setup of
Rohan.
of well, no, of the Shire.
Oh, well, yeah. The
It's
first one with the
just
setup of the shower
it's
is so good. Again,
unbelievable.
that
The
every
music,
teeny little detail with the Hobbit house and like
Yeah.
everything that they're
Man,
doing.
they rebuilt
Oh,
that shit even better for the Hobbit trilogy, and it goes so unnoticed, like
it's
after the fact
it's
type
so
thing.
cool.
But it's very cool that like that just it exists, like that the Hobbit trilogy exists. Like
Exactly, but
it's
that's the thing with those physical locations. You feel that they're
mm,
real,
yeah,
which I think is such an important piece of it. And then like the way that they do the camera trickery to make the hobbits look small
yeah.
and everyone else like as a normal size and like all that stuff, and like Gandalf being inside
Oh, Gandalf.
his house and like him hitting his head on like the chandelier
Oh,
and stuff.
dude, when
And
him and Frodo are in that house,
he picks up the ring in the
when
background. Oh yes,
and what's his name is gone.
yeah. Bilbo's left already.
Bilbo is gone,
Yeah.
and like they are just left with the
Well, the
most
ring is on the
powerful
floor,
thing.
right? Because
Yeah.
he drops it out. He takes it out of his pocket,
Oh, the
drops it, and
sound,
leaves.
and it's just like,
Such
doof.
a good thunk. Well, I've actually realized because of this movie, because one of the things I love about 4K Blu-ray is that you get uncompressed audio, and it sounds so good. And I realized that my subwoofer is broken because when
No.
that thud hit when it hits the ground, I could hear the subwoofer like doing that sound that it makes.
Then when like the that like evil music kind of just like
Well,
like
the
plays in the
theme of
background.
the ring theme is so,
Holy cow!
which is that theme that plays when the title of Lord of the Rings just comes up over black, which I think is
Yeah,
such a brilliant move. Just title Lord of the Rings over black, and then you have the Rings theme, which also plays over the prologue, which has Kate Blanchett doing her thing, and it's like
yeah.
what a cool what a cool opening sequence. Um, so well realized. You have to do so much work to like establish the world, and you just do
Mm.
it in this like
There's great
really
slow mo
in
in
depth
that
way.
part. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like the
Yeah.
real like the high frame rate slow mo. It's just those jarring choices of the
Well, it's if you don't have
frantic.
the thing is like if you don't have the frame rate, you can't really do it, so you have to cheat it, and
Mm,
that's you can't go back and they weren't going to go back and reshoot it, right?
right.
Um. Anyway, we're off on a big tangent here. The point is, John Williams is not retiring. He says, "quote If a film came along that I was greatly interested in with a schedule that I could cope with, I wouldn't want to rule anything out." And then this last line, which feels like so unnecessary but so sick, he says, "Everything is possible. Only our limitations are holding us back." Which is like, thanks, John Williams. Really needed that like emotional like burst or boost right now. Helpful. Only our limitations are holding us back, Jeremy. We can do anything. Thanks, John. Um, I just all that means to me is that he'll probably come and do another Star Wars movie, which would be nice because the last one he did, Rise of Skywalker, sucks. So the thing is though, the music in Rise of the Skywalker is awesome. It's really great. He's like blending all these themes. He's creating like he's tying in
Who
all of
cares, man?
the
That trilogy is
prequel and
so depressing.
what, the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I still think the
You
Last Jedi
can
is awesome.
yeah, you can still relive like some cool moments, but like man,
It's just so poorly built as a
like
cohesive
especially
one.
from like just kind of how the sequel trilogy was perceived, even though it's kind of had its renaissance
Sorry,
now.
the prequel one. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, prequel. Uh, and then you have the opportunity to continue what the original set out, or like kind of like be more tied to that story in a future movie setting, and
hmm
they just completely botched it. And they
Well,
had the actors.
the
They had
episode 7
all
is actually
three.
pretty good, but they also don't capitalize on the hey, let's bring all of the big actors together and have a big, joyful. It never happens,
Yeah, they don't like share the
and
screen
that
too.
is a problem. I think that like it's just a missed opportunity that nothing, and now we can't even do it because Carrie Fisher's dead, and it's like and then they killed off Han Solo in the first one, so it's like, well, now what do you do? Like the closest thing they did was have them all appear as a space ghosts or like as ghosts or whatever, force ghosts at the
Yeah, I
end
mean that
of
death
yeah.
also like changed, the trajectory of the
Well, the
story
Han
and like
Solo death is cool, but
well, I mean Carrie
it does
Fisher,
rob us
like
of something. Yeah.
just dying in real life, right? Like
Well,
like
Carrie
the
Fisher.
story, yeah, like the story elements and where they were going
I
like was
know.
completely cut.
Well, again? It's like, what are you supposed to do? It's like they wanted the whole plan was to give her not the third movie in the sequel trilogy was going to be like led and
But that's the thing.
kind of
That's when we could
carried
have
by Carrie
gotten
Fisher.
those moments with Luke, Han, and Leia. Like
Yeah.
100% we would have. They just had to basically leave JJ just kind of keep going.
By the way, JJ hasn't made a movie since Rise of Skywalker.
Well,
Was brought to attention recently on Twitter, and there's some defenders out there of JJ specifically. I listen. I think he actually does have some good
JJ.
movies. I think he does have some good movies. I love the 2009 Star Trek is very fun.
Yeah, no,
Um,
he proved himself. He became, this junior Spielberg,
yes, that's
basically.
what he.
That's
But
how
that's kind
much
of
he
how he
hit it
framed
out of the
himself,
park.
though, right? Isn't that his? Isn't like how he wanted to be framed? When he made Super 8 and stuff like that.
Yeah, because he is, he's a student of all the greats before him, especially
Sure,
Spielberg. He grew up in a time where Spielberg
the
was
goat.
that like new modern blockbuster director, like that we hadn't seen much like it. We saw different versions of
Still
it, but
really
nothing
haven't,
like
to be
this.
honest.
Yeah.
One might argue.
Well, I mean,
But
like Hitchcock is a version of Spielberg to a certain
well, I
degree.
said
Like,
since
yeah,
Spielberg.
yeah, okay, yeah.
What's the modern Spielberg? Nolan? But even then, it's
Well,
pretty
it,
different.
well, it is. It's a conversation
Yeah.
between guys like Nolan and Fincher. You know what I mean?
Yeah. By the way, I
And
watched Fincher's
obviously,
new movie. Have you seen it? The Killer.
I saw. I did, but I think I missed a
You fell
chunk of it.
asleep.
Like I had to watch it over like a couple
It's
periods,
pretty
but
boring. I'm gonna be honest, but it's pretty. It's still like it's got
yeah, it
some
has,
cool
it has
stuff
some
in it.
jaw dropping moments,
Yeah,
and that's
it's
what you're
got some
kind of
cool
there
stuff in it.
for. I do want to give it another go. Um, just to kind of see how it all ties together. Because it was a little bit of a slow burn for me, I think, in the beginning. I
Well,
think
the
that's
whole
what,
movie's a slow burn. That's
yeah.
kind of
But I think once it got going and he was just kind of doing his thing, I was like, okay, this is pretty crazy. Let's see where this goes.
crazy indeed. Okay, so Star Wars. Speaking of Star Wars, a couple things I didn't mention on our Star Wars podcast. We did cover some news, but it was mostly we were looking forward at 2024 and what we could expect for the coming year. A couple things that happened before the end of the year that I wanted to quickly touch on. Dave Filoni was promoted to Chief Creative Officer at Lucasfilm, which I think is obviously well deserved. He's kind of cut his teeth with that company for a long time. Putting him in a Chief Creative Officer role, I think, really helps position him to steer the story in a way that is going to be beneficial, I think, for lack of a better term, for the future of Star Wars. Right, a little bit more cohesive storytelling. Understand. I think Dave, more than anyone in that company right now, understands what makes the Star Wars moments big and exciting, and can tie those threads from the prequels and original trilogy and sequels and kind of make it work. So
Yeah, but
I'm
there goes any hope for Solo too.
listen, man. I don't. I bet you, Dave. I bet you, Dave Filoni likes Solo. That's a good movie. So I we don't know for
Well,
sure.
let's
I would
not
like to
forget
see
about the
Alden
Donald
Ehrenreich back.
Glover situation.
Well,
Goat
Donald Glover's
Glover.
going to come back. He's going to play Lando again. That's a guarantee. You can take that to the bank right now.
No, he's already. That was a newsworthy thing we talked about however many months back,
Yes.
where he was basically saying that he's got the green light to kind of write this thing with his brother and like his creative partner, I guess, because they work on
Okay, but
Atlanta.
what if that happens? Then if that goes that way, right? And
Then there's a
Donald Glover.
possibility that they're going to need a young Han Solo to kind of jump in
Exactly.
the mix. But if it's
Exactly.
if it's Lando kind of centric, then how do they work in Han?
Well, how many adventures
Who?
have Han and Lando had? Who knows, right? Could be lots
No, I know,
before,
but it's just
right?
like
So,
maybe they just want to focus on Lando. Is what I'm saying.
yeah, but if you can bring Alden Ehrenreich back to do more Han Solo, I think you do it.
But if you bring in
Yeah,
Han, I think he has to basically be It has to be like a buddy cop type. Like this is both
yeah,
of them.
but like but you also could imagine a scenario where the um the series is kind of more of a all over the place in a good way, in the sense that it's telling kind of all sorts of different stories, and you could have an episode or two focus on a adventure with Han and still be um, primarily a show that focuses on Donald Glover. So I think that's still possible. I would hate to believe that they would be like, well, we don't want to give Han more. He's going to steal the screen if we do that. So, and this is a Lando show. I just feel like that's silly, and that doesn't really fit with the concept of what Star Wars has done in the past in that vein. So I would like to see them do it. I mean, they brought Luke into the Mandalorian. Why you can't if you do that?
Yeah,
Why
it's
can't you have Han?
absolutely brutal.
Well, not the first time he shows up. That was pretty cool.
No,
right? I mean, his face didn't look good,
I agree.
but
But
that's
it
still
was
pretty cool.
just, it just ended up being a nothing thing. It was just like that
It
may as well just been.
yes.
It basically was just a fan made sequence that was done by Disney Star Wars to appease the fans
Well,
of this
no,
character,
it
this
did
legacy
make some
character.
sense, but then the problem was came later when they started to kind of like backpedal some things. I think their reluctance to recast characters like Luke is a problem. And we'll touch on that in a sec, but
Well,
um,
I've been speaking about
yeah,
that for forever,
it needs
basically.
to happen. It needs to happen. It needs to happen. Okay, so speaking of Star Wars a little bit more, Dave Filoni in a interview with EW confirms what was seemingly already established in Ahsoka as well as in The Last Jedi, saying that, quote, if you pay attention to the films, you understand that the Force is an energy field that's created by all living things, but it takes some commitment to wield it. So this is something that people were getting bent out of shape around Ahsoka, but also in Last Jedi, which is that like the Force anyone shouldn't be able to just use the Force, right? And so there's this kind of I don't know how you'd say this, but there's like this push I think from Lucasfilm right now to open up the Force to make it more widely accessible. That if you do commit yourself as X person, Broom Boy from the Last
Inclusive.
Jedi, yeah, inclusive maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do, and I think that largely makes sense to me. But I think it still has to be earned, which I think it sounds like he understands that. But I don't know, where do you come down on that idea? Do you want it to be more exclusive, or do you like it like that, or does it bother you that they want to open it up a bit?
um, well, I just think it's funny that it just creates this divide where these other people are like just up in arms over like how Star Wars is being treated and what they're
Yeah, there's a
doing
fandom problem
with
for Star Wars.
inclusivity. It's obviously toxic in terms of like when there's actors involved and then creatives. Kathleen Kennedy, a female directing the newest Star Wars,
It never ends.
like
Yeah.
a female heroine, right? Like it just like there's this whole dialogue between like it's just not, it doesn't work or whatever, and like it's just interesting to see whatever they do make like actually how it is, uh, perceived by audiences.
Well, I think that there's a I think you're right that those things are people are controversies, but I think they're largely needless controversies. Like, why are we throwing the new director of a Ray movie that isn't even out yet under the bus for comments she made about a different movie? It makes no sense. So, like,
Yeah, but
you
if
know,
you've
you know,
seen the last Star Wars movie, like, there's no way you want a Ray movie.
uh, I don't know. It depends on how they're doing it. They're doing a big time jump forward. Um, that opens up all sorts of possibilities and kind of unshackles you from some of the baggage of the sequel trilogy. Um, there's I think I never had any problems with her performances. So if they give her
Yeah,
a
but
good
this is just
story,
another reboot scenario.
no, it's a
Um,
continuation. I think of the world. I mean, that we haven't had any stories set after Rise of Skywalker yet. Obviously, at some point, those stories are going to have to be told, right? So
you think so?
I think I know so because I
There's
know they
so
want to.
many generations within the lore of Star Wars.
You don't need to go
Why
forward
do
and
you
just end it
think it's a
there.
good idea to continue the Skywalker story when it was in
Well, I
shambles
guess
in the
really what
sequel
they're saying is
trilogy?
it's not really the Skywalker story. They're kind of continuing. I guess her name is Rey Skywalker now, so
Dude,
theory.
they had their chance.
Well, I think again,
Ray was
my
supposed
opinion on
to
all this stuff
show
is
down
you got to give it a
with
chance.
Kylo Ren, man. It's done.
Yeah, and now there's
You
gonna be,
need to
and now
just get
the
a whole new story, a whole new timeline,
the idea
a
is to
whole new thing.
establish a new Jedi Order. That's what they're pitching it as. There is a
Right.
whole thousands of books, not really, but lots of books in the extended universe about a new Jedi Order that they could pull from to make it exciting, interesting. So I'm not too worried. I think it'll be interesting. How about this though? If that doesn't work for you, what about a what if series? You're familiar with the Marvel one. What about a what if sort of
Not really. I
series?
haven't watched a single one.
Well, you don't understand the concept, right?
Right.
So, what if a what if series for Star Wars? So, like, what if Anakin didn't turn to the dark side? Right, that's an easy one. But and I'm sure they'll use that one. But like, there's a bazillion different what if scenarios. Does that interest you at all? Like, if you could see that, like, okay, we're gonna explore the possibilities, not as a multiverse per se, but as like just a story idea. Just original stories that are unshackled from canon.
I guess, but all I've seen from Marvel is they just jumble up the characters and they play different characters. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
like it's
but
just not my
that
thing.
one's also tied down with baggage because it has the multiverse stuff.
Mm.
And whereas this, it's just like there's no multiverse in Star Wars. So if you establish we're gonna do a what if series, but it's not there's no framing that's set within the universe, which is what it has. It has this conceit that the Watcher is telling these stories from the multiverse that are in parallel to the events of the MCU. Whereas this would be theoretically not that at all, and just kind of be like a story conceit, which is, okay, again, what if Obi-Wan was able to convince Anakin to not, turn to the dark side on Mustafar, right? And then they go and kill the Emperor together. Then what happens, right? Or what happens if Mace Windu kills the Emperor right in front of Anakin? What happens then? Does Mace Windu get killed by Anakin? Does Anakin become the Emperor? Does he take it by force? All these kind of concepts that you could explore. These are
So
all written
just choose your own
stuff.
adventure, but let's just redo some of the decisions.
Yeah, right. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a fun idea, and then you get to use the same characters, but in different scenarios. Whereas with with the Marvel stuff, it's like they're kind of the same character, but they're really not because they have a whole different life. So I don't know. I'm interested, and there was
I
a
just don't know what they're gonna do. Like when are
I
they
guess
gonna
that's
pull
the
the
big
trigger
question,
on
right?
anything? Obi
With
Wan was a letdown, but they still like he said he'd come back. He wants to do more. But there's ties in that with whatever Dave Filoni was setting up with Inquisitors and shit. Like that
well,
stuff's
yeah, those
obviously
kind
going
of
to
thread in
continue.
between.
Like
I
that's the
mean,
stuff that's going to continue. I think.
what I guess Jeremy, like, what would they have to do to get you back in the fold, right? Because you're kind of you're teetering on the edge here. What is it? Got to be a full reboot type scenario here?
Got to be a full reboot.
Okay,
We just struck gold with George Lucas back in '77,
yeah,
and the
well,
talented artists crafting all these things physically and just making it this cohesive universe that we all know and love today. That every sector within it has variations that all make sense and match up, and
well, yes and
it's
no.
just like
It's too big for it to always be perfect, but they at least try, which is nice.
yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's just so recognizable. Like
Well, it's
like
iconic, is
the
what
Falcon is just is it's the best.
Vader's
It's
helmet in profile. You don't even need to see any
mhm.
detail. You just need the shape, and you know exactly who it is, right? So that kind of stuff, I think, is timeless. You're right. Okay, so this actually brings me to an agree or disagree, which I've been saving. So this one is from Matthew Vaughn. You know Matthew Vaughn, Jeremy, from
Mm.
the director of such films as Argyle, to come out really soon. But also, was it X Men First Class? I want to say he also did that.
Hmm.
And those other spy movies that I can't remember the name
Kingsman.
of. Kingsman, thank you. Um, he's kind of a wacky dude, very outspoken. He's got big ideas. Take like it or love it, or dislike it. Take it or leave it. Like it or love it. Those are your options. But I think he at least he has a vision and he goes and executes, which is I think more than you can say for some. Anyway, so here's Matthew Vaughn. He thinks that Star Wars should have a reboot and only focus on the Skywalker family. Quote, what are the Star Wars characters? Why are the Star Wars characters so hallowed that from 1977 you can't redo it for a new audience? Question mark. Do you agree with that conceit in theory? Agree or disagree?
Okay, say it one more time. He said,
Why
or
are the
he
Star
can't.
Wars characters so hallowed that from 1977 you can't redo it for a new audience? Could you reboot Star
Did,
Wars?
could you reboot Star Wars? Or
Yes.
he's saying you can't, or you can't, or
He's
you
saying you
can't.
should. He's
Oh
saying
yeah,
why can't
that's what
you?
I'm saying. I've been
Yeah.
saying that,
That's
so
fine.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I
I
disagree.
think
I
they
don't
were
think.
I think the
Yeah.
characters were just so well written and the performances were just so genuine, and we spent our time with the characters. It wasn't so contrived as most things kind of tend to be now to check boxes and to get to where we can be so we can make more. That
Right.
shit didn't
They just
happen
wanted to
back
tell the
then.
story they wanted to tell.
They
Right.
just George Lucas just jumped into this timeline that's so vast,
It's so
and
crazy
it
because you
felt
started
like
with
it
the
was
fourth one, right? I
yeah.
think that's what they wasn't originally called that, but they
That's
very
the
quickly
genius move.
changed the that concept, and it would by very quickly after that it
But
was
it's only the
episode
fourth
four.
one because he came up with such a long backstory to get to that first
Yes,
movie that he wanted to have
the freedom.
X
Yeah.
wings in and all, like, you know what I mean, like all this, and then Luke just kind of joins the ranks and is just slowly, like, it just all makes sense to where he's progressing and then
By the
just
way,
becomes the chosen one.
speaking of
He was the
which,
chosen one this whole time.
well, there's still debate about that, about whether
Yeah,
he
well,
was
I just think
actually
I
Anakin
just
or
think at
Luke.
the end of the day we have to just, it can't just keep going on forever. It's not The Walking Dead. Okay, it's not.
Yeah, that's Jeremy. That might be one of their. Yeah, that's a little bit too real for me because I've been saying for years on this show that I was like, any story that is like designed from the beginning to never end is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, but I'm
But the
saying
thing
that
is, you can
you, with
tell
your
cohesive stories
relationship with
within a
Star
world.
Wars, you do not want it to end.
Well, I don't. No, 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 no. Don't let me wrong. I love the world of Star Wars, and you can tell all sorts of stories in that world, right? Which I guess is the case of Walking Dead, right? It's like,
I'm
okay,
just saying, I think
post-apocalyptic
it's
zombie
completely
world.
fair to say that Luke is the guy. He was the chosen one. He brought balance to the Force, and to the galaxy. It's done. We don't need. You can have all these ventures
Well,
after, but the sequel
Anakin
trilogy is
technically is the one
ass.
that kills the emperor, but then he gets brought back, so it's kind of like, I don't know. That
He gets
it's
brought
not
back.
perfect. It's not perfect.
Who gets brought back?
The emperor does. Palpatine
When?
does in Episode 9. That movie sucks.
These don't,
Remember?
these movies don't count, dude. That's what
Okay,
you're
well,
missing here. It
I'm
ends
not
with Return.
okay, but so it's the prequels and the original trilogy, and that's it for you?
Yeah, the
No,
prequels were
no,
nice. Let's
no
go
Rogue
back.
One, no
Okay, remember?
Solo.
No, those things are cool because it goes into that back part
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
Lucas had all planned out or arranged in a timeline. You
I
can
mean,
dive into that well and have fun there.
yeah,
They
and the
did that
Clone
with the
Wars is
TV
set in that same
shows, and
timeline
they
too. Yeah.
and even with the new TV shows, they did that, but they faltered a little bit in how they kind of ran those stories, like the Boba Fett stuff, and like how they wanted to connect it with things. It was just a little too much
You got it.
contenty.
But have you seen Andor? Like,
I
have you
watched the
seen
first
Andor?
episode.
Oh my god, you got to watch the first 3 episodes, and that
Yeah.
that's you
You know,
have
I heard
to,
tell the
and then
fourth one is really gets
no, 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 it's the
into
third one because they do
it.
3 episode arcs. So there's a first 3 episodes are one mini arc. Then the next mini arc is also 3 episodes.
Yeah,
It's
I would
fucking
love
amazing.
Andor if it came
Yeah.
out like a couple years after Rogue One or something, and
You're just too burnt
Solo
out.
was out.
Oh man, you're missing out on some good stuff. That's what I mean. Like it's like what do you, like
What do people
I,
want?
what do you want? Yeah, like I don't, they're not going to reboot it. So if with
Just continue with Ray and Kylo Ren.
well, I don't think Adam Driver's coming back.
You don't think
But
Adam Driver's coming
I
back?
don't think Adam Driver's coming back. First of
So
all, his
you think,
character's dead.
dude? This is no. This is like if Henry
Adam
Cavill
Driver's
was
too good
James
for
Gunn's
that.
Superman, and they just kept and they just do this new script
Maybe I don't know, but
without adhering to anything from before it.
like I, I just don't think he's going to come back because I think Adam Driver doesn't need Star Wars. Is what I think it is. So I
He's
like
got Ferrari and Michael Mann, and that's it.
I don't I listen. I love Adam Driver, but Ferrari looks like a not a fun movie. It doesn't look fun to me. I
Hey,
don't.
I mean, the trailer was good. I was sold in that trailer until that Ferrari fucking flew up into the sky and hit that pole or whatever.
That was what turned you off.
Yeah,
Interesting.
actually.
Huh.
And
Huh.
then I looked it up and like it was a huge thing online. People were like, "What the hell is this?" You want to talk
It's like
about
you just wanted a biopic,
disengaging?
right?
We need to have a soundbite of Patrick Stewart saying "engage."
But put a diss in front of it or engage with the story.
Like when we talk about
Okay,
how
hold on.
when
I'm gonna
people
make
when
notes
people
for
are
it.
disengaged, we gotta be like, you need to, and then engage.
Okay, good. Hold on. Let me write that down. That's good. Okay, so we got the THX theme, right? And then we
Yeah,
have
but that was a you misread me when I said that. I was trying to make fun of the people who just go to the theater for that button and it makes that stupid sound. It's like a
What? Wait.
squishing of the leather, like it's like
Oh,
that
yeah. No, that's
tightness
not.
of the.
Yeah. That's so funny because I hate that sound. Not a fan of
But
that.
that's when you know you're at a theater with reclining seats.
Yes,
Like you
it's
can
true.
just
But
kind
and
of
like
chill out.
honestly, it is better to have the reclining seats. We can all agree.
But
It's
there's
big
no
improvement.
engineering master that can figure out a cheap way to just like not have that squishing sound.
No, because that seats have to be really close together.
Yeah.
Okay, couple of more stories. So a new Star Trek film is in development. Toby Haynes, who directed episodes of Andor, is very good. He's set to direct. This is described as an origin story set decades before the 2009 Star Trek film. So just Star Trek Enterprise, I guess, or something, but not exciting. People want to see futuristic Star Wars. They don't, or Star Trek. They don't want to see the first time they ever achieved warp speed. First of all, we already saw that in Star Trek. Which one is that? First Contact. We saw that
So
in Star
good.
Trek
That's the
First
best
Contact.
one.
It's unbelievable good. It's so fun. And then we did a whole series called Star Trek Enterprise, which was the first Enterprise ship.
That first contact reminds me of like how like Star Trek was like the X-Men movies, and then First Contact is like Logan.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Um,
It just seems so
kind
much
of.
more raw. But I don't know how like the story went played out. I just remember like seeing these actors in this kind of like
Well, they spent a lot of time
this
on Earth in that one, which is
yeah,
always
like
interesting.
in like
Yeah.
it just in their natural habitat was just so like cool at the time.
Well, they're also like that's like they're right in. You talk about like being in it with the Harry Potter movies. It's like just living in that world. It's like
Yeah.
by that time those characters are so established. You understand exactly who they all are, and you can
Like that's
play
the
off
first
all
time
these
they were on the
characters
big
and
screen,
everything. I don't think was that the first one they did.
wasn't it?
It might be. Here's the thing that they're missing out on, by the way. I think, which is they have really great Star Trek shows on television right now. Why aren't we just making those into movies? We did that for years. Literally for
Because
like
streaming
25 years we
services,
did that. But why can't okay? So if
we
go see
don't
the Star
want
Trek
to
movie
leave
and
the
then
house.
go subscribe to the Star Trek series on Paramount Plus.
It's too
Like
much. Like why? Like there's On Deck Academy and Star Trek. Like there's
it's
what are
first of
we
all it's
doing?
Lower Decks and is the animated one. It's really good, very funny.
I don't know, man. As soon as there's animated shit of like cool shit, and then the animated shit's like all funny and like whatever,
It's
it's
fun,
like
man. It's really
no.
fun.
I'm saying like it's fine, but it's like don't expect it to be like this widespread. Like everyone should be
No,
tuning
I get
in.
that. It's really about like indulging in as a Star Trek fan.
Yeah,
It
like
like
you
rewards you
get
for your lore
you get a
knowledge.
lot of
Exactly.
bonus stuff here with that show if you're
Exactly.
just a
100%.
diehard Star Trek fan.
Right, and
Yeah.
like it because it's set at the same time, like around the same time as Voyager and Deep Space Nine, and all that stuff. You get those connections into that, so that's like it's fun. But then like Strange New Worlds, which is set before the original series, unbelievably great. You could easily tell a
Hmm.
set up movie with that cast. So
No, we
I
need
think
a
this is
movie straight up
ridiculous.
where we just dive into it, and it's
Well, that's what
that,
this is, I guess.
and it's the guy who played um what's
Yeah,
the annoying
Anson Mount.
character? Who?
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like the black guy with the green lightsaber.
Oh, what? No. Who are you talking about? I'm talking about Star Trek, right? You're talking about Star Wars? I don't understand.
Yeah, let's jumping back to Star Wars for a second. We need a movie where that guy is just a badass Jedi, and like there's a crazy conspiracy story going on, and he's just in the middle of it.
You Mace Windu?
No, the
Oh, from the sequel trilogy? Finn?
he was Jar Jar Binks, and then he got to be
Oh,
a
yeah.
real life
Ahmed
Jedi.
Best. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that. He's pretty cool. He actually appears in as a Jedi in
Yeah,
Mando season 3, I
he
think,
like protected
protecting
Grogu or
Grogu.
something like that.
Yes. Yeah. He has a really cool moment where he like kills a bunch of clones and then like escapes. It's pretty cool in my opinion.
Yeah.
Again, what more do you want? I don't get it. Like, okay. Warner Brothers and Tom Cruise have agreed to a unique development deal. It's actually really crazy to me because I think it's a smart move by Warner Brothers to try to court Tom Cruise, who makes big movies, and Warner Brothers needs that. But it's so funny because if you read the details, it's really much like Tom Cruise is like agreed to this, but like it feels like really one sided because Tom Cruise
Yeah.
is still able to make movies at any studio he wants. He doesn't have to give Warner Brothers a first look deal. he doesn't have to, like, he's really not committed to anything. He just gets an office at the Warner Brothers studio, and then can make makes it easier to make movies with Warner Brothers, but he doesn't have to. So I don't know. I
Just seems like another David Zaslav like fake
well,
news bit to like sell the because the rumors that they're going to be merging with Paramount or something, which is where Tom
I thought
has
that was
been. Is
Apple. Isn't Apple going to merge with Paramount?
who knows?
I don't know. Less streaming services I'm actually fine with.
And then
But
Tom, remember they had the leaked story where Tom saw the Flash and it was the movie. It was the
right.
greatest superhero
Yeah,
movie
that
ever. We
explains
need
a
it right
lot more
now.
now. It does. Right. What a liar. What a fucking liar. I lose so much
Hey,
faith,
guess
like,
what? James
yeah.
Gunn lied too. Said it was
Yeah. We're all
one of the greatest superhero
everyone's a
movies
fucking
ever.
liar. This is what the Variety article says. It says it's a coup for Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi, who took
Palm.
Palm, who took over as co-chairs and CEOs of Warner Brothers Motion Pictures Group in 2022, and who have been working to reinvigorate the studio as well as for David Zaslav, the man who hired them. The deal with Cruise, who has projects at rival studios like Universal and Paramount, isn't exclusive, nor is it a traditional first look back. The actor can make movies at other companies, but the hope is that he will be able to generate the kind of globally appealing blockbusters that could spawn sequels and enhance Warner Brothers' bottom line. Because isn't that what it's all about, Jeremy? Is just enhancing Warner Brothers' bottom line when it really comes down to it.
Enhance. Need a
Zoom,
soundbite for that
zoom and
too.
enhance. Yeah, um, that's
That's
kind
more of
of
a
sad.
visual gag.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Tron Ares. By the way, this is the new name for Tron 3. Tron Ares. Do you like that?
No,
Oh, no, okay.
just very generic
Okay,
AI
Tron
generated.
Ares will be filming after the holidays. It will star Jared Leto, unfortunately, Evan Peters, also unfortunately, no offense, Greta Lee, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Cameron Monaghan. It won't have Joseph Kosinski directing or Daft Punk doing the score. So really, what's the point at this point? Like Tron Legacy. First of all, this is my moment where I have to say, where's the 4K Blu-ray re-release of that movie? It
They
needs to come.
can't.
Yes, they can. Of course, they can.
They
You don't think
the
that
the
you don't think they
the
can do it?
what the scene with the fake what's his name will just look atrocious.
Well, obviously they would need to do some touch-up work. Obviously, but like, can you
So
imagine
it's
that
a
movie in 4K
remaster.
HDR? Yeah, could right though. Come on, with that score,
No, but
come
like
on.
in terms of like a video, it's almost like a video game remaster if they're gonna
Basically,
redo
the whole
the
movie's made out of
special
video game
effects.
assets. I mean, come on. But I've been wanting, like, they had the opportunity to make a sequel with Joseph Kosinski and Daft Punk at one point, and they passed on that, and now they want to make this garbage movie. So whatever, I'll see it. I'll still see it, but I'm not happy about it. Like, I don't know. Does anything about that like excite you at all? Like, I know like Tron is a
The
weird
only thing
franchise,
cool
but
in Tron is the light cycles.
well, and all the vehicles are cool, right? Isn't Wouldn't you say? Like, even like the
Yeah, but
cool Jeep thing
especially
they
the
had.
cycles.
Well, yeah, obvious. That's like the original thing. So, have you
The
ever seen the
trail it
original? I've
leaves.
never even seen the original Tron.
Yeah, I think I have the DVD.
I don't know if I could do it. It's too old. Like, I know that sounds bad, but
Yeah,
like,
it's just one of those things. It's hard to engage with something when it has all those
yeah.
things
If you
going
do
on.
in that exact voice every time, Jeremy, I'll be able to replace your voice with the sound bit. So,
I don't even know. I don't. I have to. I'm not even doing an accent.
but here's the thing. Um, he says engage so many times. Which one do you use, or is there
Oh
different
yeah.
ones for different scenarios?
I don't know, but I had a university teacher that looked like him, and he would literally say "make it so" at the end of whatever lecture.
Well, hey, at least you got to know your audience, right? Like, you got to know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Did you see the last Fast and Furious movie?
No.
Okay, well,
Last
Fast
one I
X
saw
Part
was the
One.
Paul Walker one. After that, it's just been a like travesty after travesty
Yeah, it's really wild. Vin Diesel
trying to
is
keep
his
doing that. That was
image. I
supposed to
feel
be a
like is
goodbye.
yeah.
Paul Walker was one and the same with the franchise. Vin Diesel completely took it over. It's completely unfair.
Well, he is dead, Jeremy. I mean, what are you supposed to do? I
Yeah,
mean,
but like it's like if what's the twin movie? Um
twins, twin Fast.
the same
Austin
story.
Powers.
No, Catherine Bigelow directed Point Break.
Oh,
It's
right.
like if
Twin.
that
Oh,
movie
it's
if that
a
movie
twin movie. Right.
continued and then what's his name died and then Keanu just kept going and like
Well, he's also
finding
dead technically, right?
who?
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, no, that's why I
Yeah.
mentioned like Keanu keep going
Right.
and he
Yeah,
finds
I
like
get
more
that.
crazy dudes.
But thing is, like at that point, even at that time, at like 7 or whatever it was when they made that, but maybe it was 6 when they made that last one with Paul Walker. It was already getting really crazy, and they've just kept ramping it up and ramping up. But guess what? Fast X Part 2 will reportedly be a throwback to the first film with a trimmed budget and less major locations. Does that entice you at all, or has Vin Diesel stained it for
Yeah,
you?
no, that one's just funny because we've all been kind of like the whole joke of Fast and Furious turning into superheroes has been around since like what
The fifth one.
5 pretty much
Yeah.
even
Mm-hmm.
even though 7 was like the goodbye to Paul Walker,
Yeah.
and then they went to space and all this other crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
But so now
Right.
it's like, but then people are just like beaking the whole decision in the comments. Like, what are you gonna do now? Like, you just went like, how can basically like how can you go from that? How can you revert back and make
Well,
it an exciting
and the thing
whatever
is, how do you
movie?
do that as a part of a part two to a two part one where the first part is so over the top and wild that like the second part of
Yeah.
this two parter is going to be like a completely different movie. Like I mean, obviously it is a different movie, but like it's just going to feel very disjointed. I think, but
Yeah.
maybe it's probably a good thing that they would do that. Like for the final movie in the franchise, go back to the roots. You know,
I don't know. Vin Diesel just seems like he's like almost like a Kanye West type, like
100%. That's a really
uh,
great analogy.
mentality. Like it's not like it's their fault, you know what I mean? It's like the people around and even the audiences. Like it's almost like we reward all
Well, it
this
kind of got
shit.
out of control, and it
It,
got bigger than even Vin Diesel could
yeah, the
handle.
God
Right?
complex just gets
Yeah.
created with the interaction, the relationship with audiences and themselves and how they're
Well,
treated.
and like they feel like he needs he's kind of lost the plot, right? In
Yeah.
both literally in the sense that like the plot makes no sense, but also like what made those movies work, which was the heart. And it's like he always says, it's about family, and all that stuff. But like it just feels like he's just saying it now, and he doesn't really mean it.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that's
just
kind of where, yeah,
it's become a mascot.
yeah,
It's Vin
exactly.
Diesel, bald, wife beater on, you know
Drinking
what
a
I
Corona,
mean? Muscle car,
yeah,
wrench,
yeah, and like they're gonna,
chicken barbecue,
right, right,
Coronas.
right, right. Someone making some snide comment,
Yeah.
yeah, uh huh,
Making fun of people who aren't car people. Like it's a whole language.
right. Yeah, no, I listen, man. I get it. Ludacris being like super smart and really cool, but not getting enough to do. It's yeah, the usual. I guess for me is if they really can synthesize a movie that is true to the first movie, I think that would be interesting, and I'm willing to give it a shot. That's my take on that. Okay, quickly on Marvel, and then we'll wrap this sucker up. Okay. Um, Echo premiered recently. I don't know if you've watched any of it. I have watched the first 2 episodes, and I think it's pretty cool. I do think that ultimately they're like, okay, we're gonna put this under this Marvel Spotlight umbrella, which is supposed to be a little bit grittier. They're really leaning into the street level stuff, and I'm into that concept. I like the idea of doing that. Ultimately, I feel like Echo was made to be a PG-13, and then they wanted it to be like an R, and then they kind of had to like bump it up or pump it up a bit. Whereas the Marvel, like the Netflix shows, were kind of started at R, and then if you wanted to make them for Disney Plus, you'd have to bring them down, which I think now they want to get back up to the Netflix level, but it's taking them a little bit of work to get there. There's some really cool stuff in Echo. I think there's a little bit of tease of Daredevil and how that's going to work. Kingpin is obviously great. Vincent D'Onofrio, friend of the show, Vincent D'Onofrio. He liked one of our tweets once. Um, he's really good, and he's back. And they've said that they want to set him up as quote the Thanos of the street level MCU, and I think that's a cool idea. So no problems there. In parallel to that, the entire Defenders saga, so all the stuff with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and but also Defenders, obviously, but also like all those things. Punisher, those which were kind of in limbo, and I don't know if this matters to you or not, Jeremy, but they've been added to the MCU timeline on Disney Plus, which I think is supposed to give them some legitimacy and maybe pull them back into the MCU and kind of make them more, um, you know, actually part of it, and where they're kind of tangential. Does that matter to you? Does that cool to you, or do you think they should have left that separate?
I mean, if those actors are coming back and being integrated within the MCU
Yeah,
through
they
the
are.
multiverse stories, then their multiverse story leading prior to being involved in the multiverse existed in the form of those TV shows.
Correct.
So, if you want to take like a comic book nerdy approach to it, then
Well, isn't that what we
sure.
do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Now it just
it's not
means I
all
got to
great.
buy all the
Yeah,
physical copies of all these things to include it with my MCU
yeah, I
Blu-ray
guess.
collection.
I mean, here's the thing. I think that the Marvel Netflix stuff is like 80% good, like that, and I think that's maybe
Yeah,
being a
it
little
was
generous,
refreshing at
but
the
like
time when we got Daredevil, Punisher,
Jessica Jones was really
Jessica
good. The first season
Jones,
was
but
really
then it
good.
was faltering a little bit with Iron Fist, Luke Cage,
Luke Cage first season's pretty good.
and then before all that,
Yeah.
it was Agents of Shield, which is that included in this as
No,
well
it's
or no?
not.
So that
Not yet. Not yet. That one's maybe too wacky,
ah,
Jeremy. I love that show. I truly do. It is so wild, so crazy. The stuff that they do, especially in the later
yeah,
seasons.
but if,
But
if
there's just no
anyone's going to
way.
be considered part of the MCU
It's
tapestry, and you're going to exclude that one ABC 7 season show
yeah. Well,
that
it's
included
multiverse, man. It's multiverse.
yeah, and it has what's his name, who was like
Clark Gregg,
a pillar of like kind of the Avengers
the original,
Inception.
the first stuff. Yeah,
I mean,
Agent
he
Coulson.
was there teasing things in bonus extra
He
scenes,
was the
and
one who was like, "Hey, we found the hammer" or whatever,
yeah,
right?
he
Like
was just like
that's
a
yeah.
commercial like actor dude
He was
that
great.
like he's
He was
like
great.
are like can you hear me now type like energy,
Yeah.
like just kind of showing up. There's a familiar
Holy
friend.
shit, Jeremy. I did not see that coming. That is so funny. You're right. He does have that little bit of the like, oh, it's the Verizon guy or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's a good actor, actually.
Oh
Turns
yeah,
out.
yeah.
So he actually carried that show for like a long time. There's
But
really
he
again
also had a
great
send off
performances.
within Avengers because they killed Joss
Yes,
Whedon in typical fashion kills off like a random kind of
yes, to motivate the
secondary
rest.
character or
That is
whatever
that is a move
to
he
pull the
used.
heartstrings
Uh huh.
and get the
And it
team on
and
the
it
same
worked.
page.
And it worked. That first you have there's like you can't there's really nothing to indict in that first Avengers movie except for maybe that like Hawkeye doesn't get enough screen time. Um,
I mean, I've
you
watched it
know,
again, and I don't think it's definitely not as exciting as it was when I watched it in the theater. I
well,
mean, it's definitely aged.
nothing is gonna recapture
Like
that.
I'd rather watch Age of Ultron than the first Avengers movie.
That's the thing. Age of Ultron apparently has aged quite well. I haven't seen it for years, so I can't speak to that. But if you say so, I'm not surprised. Um, I mean, it was really kind of Joss Whedon going full comic book shit in that one, right? So, you know, props, I guess. Um, here's the thing, though. They are there's another. So they're bringing Eden Henson and Deborah Ann Woll back for as Foggy and Karen because they are
That was backlash
Isn't
hard.
this crazy that they were like, hey, we made an entire series of Daredevil, 24 episodes. Isn't that crazy? And then
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, that's so cool. And then they're like, and guess what? The first 5 episodes, he doesn't put the suit on. He's just a lawyer. And they're like, boo, you suck. And they're like, oh no, what have we done? So they backpedaled so hard and are basically remaking that show basically from the ground up and bringing back characters that should have been there from the first place. Why isn't Foggy there? That makes no sense. So as a part of that, ultimately that likely means as in a very short amount of time we're going to get John Bernthal back as Punisher probably. And if anything, like of all the things, obviously Daredevil's really cool, no doubt. But John Bernthal's performance as Frank Castle as the Punisher is like top tier performance, best iteration of the character, bar none. It's not even close, in my opinion. And he says here in an interview recently, he says, the Punisher has to be great and has to be right. He says it's a real sacred integrity. It has to have real sacred integrity to the source material and to what it is at the core of Frank. I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that if and when we do it right. John Bernthal is so cool. I've like
He's the best.
First of all, if you've seen The Bear, he plays a kind of a recurring supporting character in that show. and every time he appears, it's like amazing. It's so cool. Every
He
time
has
he
his own
appears, it changes.
podcast, John Burt, though. It's pretty
Does
funny.
he? I have to
Yeah.
start listening to that then, because I just think he's so well spoken. His episode of the Hot Ones, which I don't always like Hot Ones, but I think his episode of Hot Ones is like one of the best ones ever. He's just so calm and collected. He has such thoughtful responses. Even this line here, he says, "Real sacred integrity to the source material." Like he cares about this stuff and he understands like what makes the character tick, but not in like a toxic way. In like a true craftsman artist kind of way. I just think
He knows who the fans of Punisher are.
right.
Like he points them out, like in terms of like he'll like directly speak to like law enforcement and like that
100%.
whole kind of ilk of which is in the fiber of that
There's
character, which
there
is
is a bit of a
pretty rare.
toxic nature to that character that can be there,
Yeah,
right?
but
But
he
he kind
frames
of
it
like
as in there are people who have roles like that and who are around, weapons like that and have abilities with them, and they all kind of relate to like that version of that character that can on a dime just kind of flip it.
right. And I think the tightrope they walk with Punisher is trying to not glorify
Right,
violence with
exactly.
guns. Where I think what makes John Bernthal's performance is so great is that he hates that he has to do that. He hates it,
You
and
know what we got to do
you
for
could
another
see it.
soundbite idea? We got to,
Okay.
like, when you ask a question like, did you like it, did you love it, did you hate it, and then if you loved it, you can play the soundbite where he's like on trial and he's like, remember when I liked it, hell, I loved it. And like everyone just like astonished because like apparently like he's like admitting to like just like brutally murdering somebody or something.
Oh
I think.
yes, cool. I all right. I'm making a list here of stuff. I think is I need to figure out a way for you to be able to hear them because otherwise it's not the same. So I need to figure out a way for you to be able
No,
to
I
hear
just
them
I
and me
just
to be able to
like
hear
when
them.
I listen to podcasts and they include like familiar
Yes, me
like
too.
musics or
Callbacks.
like
Yeah.
just whatever. Like even like slash film with like their spoiler territory or
Which they
whatever.
got a new one with that, and I actually really like
Yeah,
it.
I haven't listened to him in a while,
Yeah.
but I remember just being very like comforted in that moment. You know that
What's in the
passed
box?
you
Right. Yeah.
passed the line. There's no going back. We're getting into some deep conversation or
Well, and
whatever.
that first one always that original spoiler one from the Slash Film guys had like a long drawn out sequence from that Nolan movie, the
Oh
Magic
yeah.
one,
Uh,
where he's explaining magic, basically how magic works, and it's so cool,
yeah,
right?
from the
You
Prestige.
want to be fooled, right?
Yeah.
Like so, yeah.
Yeah, you can do a lot of clever editing or
Yeah,
whatever for like a piece. But
yeah.
like for us, since we're so like involved in like
I still
the
need to do the
nerd
Batman one.
culture and like film and stuff, if we just had a major one and we just played them like whenever you thought would be like an appropriate kind of like joke or whatever, it just kind of enhances the
The Justice League is under
listening.
attack.
Yeah. But like
Yeah.
it has to make sense when you use
No,
it,
I
and that
know,
to be
I
a
know,
bit
I get it,
quicker.
I get it, I get it.
But that
You
one
can't
could
just
be used for like our version of uh, Michael Caine's
right.
monologue there, or whatever.
100%. There's good ones. And the thing is, we come up with new ones all the time, and we need to be able to remember them. So I have I have made a commitment, and I actually said this. I should mention this on the main show. I made a commitment on the Star Wars podcast about the show in general, which is that for this year, my resolution for 2024 is to um, find a way to fill some of these gaps of these kind of multi-week gaps that we go between shows, and whether that means bringing on new hosts or guests or doing more solo shows, putting a little bit more kind of prep work in from a kind of tech standpoint. I've already done some of that work, so I'm excited for this year at TOB. I think we're in for a good year. That basically does it. We should mention. I actually, you know what? I don't even want to mention. Here's what I'll do. I'll mention that the Golden Globes did happen, but largely speaking, I don't. I made a kind of a pact a couple years ago. I don't remember that when we found out about all this kind of like corruption and bullshit that the Golden Globes were. They were just gonna not talk about them. They weren't important, and largely speaking, they're still not. They made this. They expanded the voting base, aiming for a slate of nominees that were more global and inclusive, quote unquote. This is from the Golden Globes specifically, and they said the difference is apparent. Half the screenplay contenders are women. 2 of the 6 lead actress contenders in a drama film are non-English films, et cetera, et cetera. So they really tried to push back against that same kind of Oscars so white concept. But like, again, the Golden Globes, why? Who cares? The fact that Christopher Nolan showed up should be like a big deal. Like, I can't believe he did that. To be honest, like it.
Well, he's winning.
It's well, he did win, so it's like it makes some sense, but it also be totally within, I think his right to not show up to this event, the award show that feels relatively like second rate compared to the Oscars or Emmys. Which Emmys are tonight, Oscars are later this year. But he did win Best Director at the Golden Globes. Best Motion, Best Picture went to.
I mean, it's award season, right? You kind of
Oppenheimer.
it's kind of just something you sign on to when you have one of the biggest projects of the year.
Yeah, I guess.
We are basically just discussing winners. Like, we're not necessarily
Talking about
discussing the show, or like we don't really care about viewership or tuning in or how can
Apparently
it entertain us. We
a
kind of just
flop.
save that for the Oscars and we judge that one.
Agreed.
The most.
Agreed. So I guess the takeaway was that Oppenheimer was a big winner at the Golden Globes.
But Emmys is just TV though, so that's kind of it's the Oscars for TV.
Yeah, but the thing is with the Golden Globes, it's both TV and movies, which is kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
Like they blend them.
But
together.
I just like that one to see all the celebrities in the same room.
Yeah, and then often they're like the whole thing with the Golden Globes is usually that the celebrities are getting pretty drunk.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drinking, so like you get some weird stuff. There was a funny meme with like Taylor Swift and stuff like the gossiping, and there's some stuff like that was pretty funny. But like largely speaking, the host was, I don't even know who it was.
Yeah, that was the kind of story of it, is that he kind of bombed.
But like what do you? I mean, I don't know. It's a thankless task to be the host of these things.
Yeah, no one wants to do it anymore. But then John Mulvaney did it or something for like some sort of other awards, and that one was well done.
So
he was a little more self-deprecating rather than just like attack. Like, it just, I don't know. It's like people are like too sensitive to is like the whole conversation. Like, he makes a joke about the NFL. Like, don't worry, we won't have as many cutaway shots to Taylor Swift like the NFL, and like there was like no laughs, and Taylor was like,
I mean, that's a funny joke. I don't like.
Yeah, it's like how is like that the whole narrative with the NFL is like it's Taylor's season, like
right.
It's this whole thing.
So I don't understand. Like, oh well, making jokes about Taylor Swift is uncool. What do you mean? She's the biggest celebrity in the world.
Look at Ricky Gervais's monologue from a few years back. Like, it'll never be topped. Like, that one was just insane.
Yeah,
he was like, "Don't thank your God, thank this, thank that, then fuck off."
Exactly.
You guys aren't better people. You don't know anything more just because
Ricky Gervais is unbeatable. Really, is what it is.
Yeah, he just knows what will cause controversy, and he just goes right at it. But he's super like slick with it.
Okay, so here's the big takeaways from the winners. Best original score, motion picture. We already mentioned the director and director and motion picture director drama, which is also Oppenheimer, obviously. Best motion picture animated, Boy and the Heron. That's not surprising, Miyazaki. And then
it's not gonna be any surprises. It's all just typical award season.
Well, Poor Things went to best motion picture, musical or comedy, beating Barbie. So that's interesting. Then there was, let's see here, best original score went to Ludwig Göransson's Oppenheimer score.
Yeah, he's already winning. We don't need to go over every winner here. We're just
I'm just skipping so you can find some good ones. Oh, I know you're a big Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell fan, so they won for best
they've been winning.
Song.
But then one of the awards, Ryan Gosling's song won. Original song. And then there's a meme because he's like stunned.
It's a great song. It makes sense to me that he would win. Best performance by a female actor in a limited series, anthology series, or motion picture made for television. Ali Wong for Beef. Did you watch Beef? It's really fun.
Yeah, I did actually. That was the one thing I actually tuned into.
Oh, great, cool. So, did you like it? I assumed you liked it.
Yeah, that was sweet.
There's nothing to not like about it. It's just so
just funny,
cathartic to watch people get angry at each other.
Yeah,
and then
but then they're just like always interacting and like.
They're constantly trying to like one up each other. And then the thing about that,
it just goes to crazy lengths, right? They like crash their cars and shit. Like,
yes, it's wild. It's so cruel. But like their lives are so different, but they're entwined by their rage, like their anger problems. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Best motion picture performance by a female actor in a motion picture drama. Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon. That's a big one for diversity. Great performance, by the way, in that film. A really long movie, but very good. Best performance by female actor in a motion picture: Emma Stone for Poor Things. Female actor supporting role: Devine Randolph, Holdovers, etc. Performance. Female actor supporting role: television: Elizabeth Debicki for The Crown. Best performance female actor in a television series, musical or comedy. I don't know why The Bear is considered a musical or comedy. It's not a comedy. It's a drama. A dramedy, maybe. Ao Edebiri. She's great, by the way, and she's directing episodes in season 3. She's one of my favorite performers right now. Full stop. I think she's unbelievable. There's a oneer that they do in both the first season, but in the second season where it's not so much action as it is like interaction between her and Jeremy Allen White, and it's so long and unbelievable. Like it's so gripping and real. Can't express enough how good that is. Best performance by female actor in a television series: Sarah Snook for Succession. Best performance by male actor in a limited series: Steven Yeun, also for The Beef. It makes sense. Or for Beef. He's also really good in that. There's a funny moment in The Beef where he's like talking to her about how like, or he's talking to somebody about how Asian people and white people can't be friends. And it's just like he believes it so deeply in his heart. It's so funny. It's ridiculous. Best performance by male actor in a motion picture: Cillian Murphy, obviously. Best performance by male actor in a motion picture, musical or comedy: Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. Who knew Paul Giamatti was still relevant in 2023? Happy for him. Great actor. Robert Downey Jr. won for Oppenheimer as well. Best performer by a male actor in a supporting role. Supporting role on television went to Matthew McFadden, Succession. Jeremy Allen White, best performance by male actor in television series, The Bear. Makes sense to me. Drama, Kieran Culkin. I don't know why that's so hard to say. Kieran Culkin, Bill, performance, drama. And then Ricky Gervais, actually. Speaking of him, he won a stand-up comedy award for his most recent special. So, all right. So there you go. Those are the kind of the big ones. Best television limited series, Beef, also, which beat out Fargo, Daisy Jones, All the Light We Cannot See, Fellow Travelers, Lessons in Chemistry. And then best of it, television series, musical or comedy, has to be The Bear, obviously. And then best television series, drama, Succession. So, like, the thing is with the Golden Globes, there's so many categories that, like, everybody can win. So, I guess that's fun.
Except for Better Call Saul.
Well, it wins
53,
Emmys. Don't they
53
win Emmys?
nominations, not one win.
But don't they win Emmys? Hasn't Better Call Saul won a bunch of Emmys?
No, I just seen a tweet now.
Oh,
Better
really?
Call Saul has never won an Emmy after being nominated 53 times.
That is
See
wild.
the full winners list here.
Is it maybe just people are like, well, we already awarded the original show. Like, do we need to keep, like,
Pretty much.
Breaking Bad already won a bunch of stuff. Do we need to give more
Yeah.
to? So, I mean, like, what's the actor from, who plays Saul? Okay, what's his name? Anyway, I love him. I remember his name. I love him. He's also really great in The Bear. He plays a small role in that. Is this a new category? Cinematic and box office achievement? Why would we award that? They already win by making all the money. I don't know. It makes no sense.
It's just recognizing, like,
the big movies.
Popular. Like, yeah, it'd be like Spider-Man No Way Home would win that or something.
Yeah, Spider-Man Across the Universe, Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible, John Wick, Guardians of the Galaxy, Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Yeah.
But Barbie won. So.
Yeah, like there's just so many, but like only one can win, and it's like, I guess it's fair enough because Barbie was the highest grossing, or
well,
but maybe Mario was, but then that one, like,
no, I think Barbie is higher grossing. I think it made over $1 billion. So
yeah, they both did. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really? That's
crazy. Just depends on that point.
So wild. I mean, listen, I like the Mario movie, but Barbie's a better movie than Mario. It's not even. It's in terms of like making a movie based on some kind of abstract concept, the Barbie's better. It's just more thoughtful, and it has something to say, which Mario is just like a fun time, but has nothing to say. It doesn't even make any sense. Like, why does Donkey Kong have the Mario Karts, and why does, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Is that like a criticism that
it's
I'm
just
like,
the way they
set
up their environment, like their traveling system?
Yeah, like why is it the Donkey Kong world, they use carts for everything. It's like I don't know. It's just like okay, I guess that's a fun idea, but it makes no sense. I guess I don't know. I don't know if that's a fair criticism, but I feel like that one kind of is stuck in my craw. All right. Anyway, that's it. That's all for today. We'll be back soon in this month, obviously, with our film club for the Iron Claw. But we'll be back sometime later this month as well with some more regular TOB stuff. So keep an eye out for that, as well as some more small screen Star Wars. Hard to say when exactly those episodes will come because we're waiting for the next series to drop. But stay tuned for that. Best way to do that, follow us on Twitter at TowerBabbleCast, Facebook.com/TowerBabbleCast, and head over to our website, towerbabble.ca, to find everything we do. And if you want to hear that special film club episode about the Iron Claw, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast. Good to be back. Thank you for everyone who supported us over the last year. Looking forward to a new, big, exciting, less depressing year in 2024. And we'll talk to you again very soon.